The topic that we're going to work with today is the journey of life, and the being that is going to connect through us is the Divine Feminine, the being I also refer to sometimes as the Divine Mother. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the connection through. Thank you. Gracious children, there is joy in our communion. Always, I thank you for your presence and for your ear, as I thank the channel for her presence also. I would speak with you of the journey of life today, a journey you are all intimately familiar with. And one, if you are listening to this, you are currently undertaking. Life is an extraordinary experience when viewed from the spiritual perspective. For many humans, the mundane experience of living is both boring and challenging. And yet I tell you that that is a minor experience or expression in the grand scheme of things. It is only when you seek movement and change or fear it that you would struggle in your human existence. The movement that we perceive from the spiritual dimensions as the human goes through their existence is quite different. It is one which shows incredible light, change, alteration when the individual is evolving consciously. And this is, for us, a far shorter period of time than the one you would engage when viewing it from the earth perspective. And so it is as though we perceive the human in a faster way as their life unfolds. Life is not limited to the third dimension, but is an interdimensional experience, both for the human and for many forms that are in incarnation at this time. You perceive time as linear, and so the past, the present, and the future exist for you. But from the spiritual perspective, we perceive all unfold simultaneously. And in this way, we see what you have been, what you are, and what you will become. And the same is true of all beings and all manifestations of life at this time. There is great beauty in this understanding, viewing the links in the chain of life, each link manifesting as individual incarnations or lifetimes, expressing themselves through the individual consciousness, and yet that individual consciousness continues to propagate itself from one lifetime to the next, evolving and growing. And so we watch the individual strengthening, we watch their light strengthening, and we perceive their consciousness growing and expanding to return again to the soul state. And even as that consciousness grows and expands back into the soul state, so we are aware that it is changed, it is altered, but in an extraordinarily beautiful way. For the consciousness that returns to the spiritual state is a consciousness that has journeyed through all the different manifestations of that particular individualized consciousness and has experienced times of joy, of heartbreak, of light, of density, of fear, of recreation, and of love. These expressions for the human specifically are extraordinarily beautiful and poignant, but for other forms of life are not necessarily experienced through emotional expression, and rather are expressed as perceptions, views of the world, state of mind, or ways of being. So to walk in love as a human is one expression for you attached to it, an emotion, but for another type of consciousness or species, perhaps an animal, walking in love has a different manifestation entirely and is expressed in different ways. It is important to recognize that all of these expressions have great value and ultimately support the collective manifestation of that consciousness, in this case the consciousness of love. And in that state, bring to the greater consciousness of love individualized expression, experience, and understanding. And so it is the collective understanding of love grows and evolves and develops, even as the varying manifestations of life take form in the universe. And this, beloveds, is the point. It is the ultimate purpose, the contribution to the collective on a far greater scale than the individual can imagine in their human state. Ultimately, the arrival point is back home, as you often describe it, back in a place of safety and returning to the original frequencies which are now altered. And so this is the greater journey of the individual, bringing together all the links in the chain to create a longer chain and a greater expression and experience. And still there are greater links still as the greater consciousnesses themselves join as one ultimately to bring expressions of experience and light to the world and to the universe. And in time, the expressions of consciousness, which are individualized but on a great scale universally, will merge with the consciousnesses of other universes, and the multiverses will become as one. And this is as creation folds in on itself once again, until once again it expands, manifesting life in myriad ways. The journey of life is indeed a magnificent one, and we encourage you, living day to day and remembering the day before, with a veil so thin that you can see what was before you slept. We encourage you in that state to take richness from the everyday in every possible way. For your part is great, and the mundane has no place. What you bring to life gives it its richness, and we would ask you to remember that. And so it is, we would leave you with these words, knowing in the future there will be more communion from us to you heart to heart, mind to mind, consciousness to consciousness, and so growth may be extended into the world. Always you are loved, and we leave you with these words: be at peace. Well, thank you for joining me for this month's channeling. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. And as always, I leave you with my love. Thank you.